Hello, everybody, and welcome to Innovation Spotlight, special edition of Innovation Spotlight. I'm really, really pleased to be hosting one of the world's greatest football clubs. We're going to be speaking to Barcelona, FC Barcelona's Innovation Hub, and also a company working with them, Omniscope. Now, GSMA Foundry was really fortunate enough to host these guys on the GSMA Pavilion at MWC Barcelona just last month. And without further ado, I think we can get people in. Now, as ever, get your questions in the chat. We are a man down today. Rich is sunning it on a beach somewhere, so thinking of you, Rich. And we'll get into the introductions now. Sports and entertainment. You're probably wondering why are we talking to FC Barcelona Innovation Hub. Sports and entertainment is fast becoming a growing, important sector for mobile carriers, and when we look at fans, when you and I go to a stadium, we come to expect greater connectivity, but also new experiences like smart ticketing, facial recognition, AI, VR, all of these sorts of things, especially in the fan zones. If we take a small example, the Super Bowl just took place, and Verizon alone reported 90 terabytes of data being used in and around the stadium on game day. And that's just Verizon. If you can imagine, you add in the other carriers, it's going to take it well over that 100 terabyte mark. Now, in terms of innovation spotlight, today we've got a slightly different flavor. In MWC 25, FC Barcelona hosted the Sports Tomorrow Congress, and indeed I was fortunate enough to host the Sports and Entertainment Summit that took place. If you want to look those up, you can get those in the chat. With joining us today, we've got Albert and VJ. Albert, do you want to introduce yourself quickly, and then we'll get VJ. We'll come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having us, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here in this session. So excited to have a great conversation with you guys. A little bit of myself. I've been at Barça for 10 years now, always related to innovation or Barça Innovation Hub. I'm a physicist. I've been also always working on the intersection between technology, science, and different sectors to build businesses. And yeah, so at Barça, it's been a long journey. Starting from scratch, this project, Barça Innovation Hub, almost 10 years ago, launched in MWC 2017. So after some years, we're here and we're excited about what's to come.
Fantastic. Pleased to have you. And VJ, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Awesome to be here. Very, very exciting. My name is Vijay. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Omniscope, where we are seeing what your immune system is seeing. So as a company, we're decoding the human immune system. I'm a geneticist by background, then quantitative modeling, and more recently public health with some AI in there. And I've had the fortune of IPOing and working with some of the companies developing the most powerful technologies to understand human biology.
That sounds amazing. And we're going to get into this in a little bit more detail. Albert, I'm going to come to you to get us started off. You mentioned 2017. That was when it all started. How did the Innovation Hub come to be? What's the mission? How are we serving the world of sports science?
Well, Barça Innovation Hub starts with, I would say, with a fundamental concept, which is Barça is a platform. Barça and sports could be a platform to develop a lot of different potential sectors that intersect with the sports, right? Of course, sports is our main core business, but sports at the end of the day is about humans playing football, but also humans getting together in specific infrastructures. And if you think about it, it touches many, many different sectors, right? So a lot of things that are applied in sports or developed in sports can be applied in this other intersection, into these other sectors that we intersect, and all the way around. Specific developments, knowledge that has been developed in other sectors can be imported to the sports world, right? So that was kind of the fundamental concept. Barça is a leading brand and it's a leading club that has been around 125 years. That has also been that has based our success has been based always in, I would say, in building rather than buying, right? So you think about players that we develop, you think about a specific way of playing. Right now, exploring type of clubs, right? So everything kind of was born here. So Barcelona Hub kind of resonates with that, with building instead of buying. So building solution together with our partners, such as Omniscope, and also in a way building IPs that we're able to co-create with our partners, and also building talent. Right, we also have a vertical in people and education. So we are basically investing in cutting edge technologies and companies, investing to develop cutting edge IPs, and investing also on developing the best professionals of the world of sports and related sectors. So that was all about. After a long journey, 3 years ago, Barça Innovation Hub became a fully owned company of FC Barcelona. We were operating inside FC Barcelona since 2017 up to 2022. But from 2022, we also announced it at MWC 2022. We announced that we were spinning out Barça Innovation Hub and operating as a fully owned company, and that gives us a lot of flexibility and a lot of I would say we are fast in terms of implementing execution, right? So the vision is still there, the strategy is still the same, but I think that right now with several projects going on, with several successes, of course some failures as well, but the mission is still there, and the vision is to keep working together with amazing companies like Omniscope to create impact internally at the club, of course, our core business, which is playing soccer, but also helping those companies grow inside sports and also in their other sectors. In the case of Omniscope, in the health space, which there is a multiple applications that we can think of.
Now, Vijay, Albert mentioned, you're working with companies, building companies. Maybe you could touch a little bit on your journey with Omniscope. What was the spark? What was the seed for all of this in terms of what's been quoted as a revolutionary approach to immune data technology?
Yeah, I think Albert said something which really resonates, which is incredibly important. It's all about humans. It's all about avoiding human suffering, and really, in sport, you're bringing humans together to optimize human performance. In medicine, we're trying to avoid human suffering. And this is what really brings these two worlds very closely together. For Omniscope, medicine is based on compassion. You feel the suffering of your patient. And I've also had my own encounters with suffering in healthcare. So really trying to avoid that suffering is really, really important, and I've had the personal experience there. So how do we do that? Well, we have a lot of unanswered questions, and one of that is, what are the basic mechanisms of health? And when we think about the basic mechanisms of health, obviously a lot of us will think about the brain. It's your central command system to really ensure that you're healthy and that you can react to disease and keep yourself in the best area. But many people don't know about the invisible army that is defending you and treating diseases, which is your immune system. And the spark was looking at that basic mechanism, that 500 million years of evolution had created this system where you have a cell to fight every disease imaginable. Now, how do you unravel that mechanism? That's what drove the spark for Omniscope, that scientific quest, that scientific curiosity, to really, really, first of all, be able to generate enough data of the immune system. And then a further spark was the innovation in areas like artificial intelligence, so you can actually decode that to improve human health. So the spark is a combination of compassion and curiosity.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Like really bringing the human sense back into the technology and linking the two. But AI, we're going to touch on it a little bit later. But I think AI has created a revolution across a number of technologies, and it'd be good to get your insights into that. Now, as ever, guys, if you've got questions, do put those in the chat. We're going to be having an Ask Me Anything question and answer session towards the end for Vijay and Alba. So if you have any questions, do drop those in the chat. Now, Vijay, your partnership with Barcelona Innovation Hub, how did this collaboration come about? You're obviously working in genetics. You're obviously working on human immunology. How do you create the link between working from essentially medical background to working with one of the greatest clubs in the world?
Well, first of all, we got to remember that Barca's everywhere, but
Yeah.
Barca's even closer to us than you would believe. Literally, I can see the Camp Nou stadium from my laboratory. So that's how
Okay.
close we are to the greatest club in the world. And you pointed out the fact that we start our journey in sick care in the clinical space, where we're taking care of people with serious diseases, cancer, HIV, vaccine development. So one of the biggest unanswered questions in medicine is, what does it mean to be healthy? When we say healthy, what do we mean? And for us, we were debating this question because it's so important to be able to incorporate that into a model. And we just happened to be looking outside our window and we could see the Camp Nou. And looking at the Camp Nou, we saw all these incredible athletes on the field. And we said, that's what healthy means. Those are the world's healthiest people. And this is not just something about sports. This is where sports can contribute to science. This is where Barça can contribute to the development even of therapies, because it is essential to have a healthy model in clinical science. If you're trying to get people from being sick to being healthy, you need to know what healthy looks like. So a lot of the work we're doing with Barça has a huge impact on society, because what we're really doing is looking at athletes as a healthy model, so that we understand their cells. And that's what athletes are. They are cells, just like you and I. And for us, really, a lot of the things that we look at in the clinical space need to come to the world of sport. So, for example, in the clinical space, we deeply understand inflammation. When you look at athletes, they're always trying to tackle inflammation. But the way we look at that is we look at inflammation cell by cell. We look at the very cells that actually cause inflammation. And that's a very important thing to be able to get into the world of sport. When you look at things like the age of an athlete or the way they are aging as they play in a club, well, it's important not just to look at their date of birth, but to look at their biological age. And that is one of the things that Omniscope does with Barça through one of our patents, which is called Immunology. But there's another layer which I think coaches and medical teams have done an amazing job at, but they've been lacking data. And that is to predict outcomes. So one of the things that we do in medical science, for example, our work in cancer, is to predict the way a patient is going to respond to a cancer therapy. Will that therapy actually work for them to defeat the cancer? Well, when we take that huge body of work, which we've done over years and years and years, we can now do something different in the area of optimizing athlete performance, which is, can we predict injury? By looking at cells, can we see the earliest signs of that injury? Can we predict it happening? Can we develop models to answer fundamental questions such as recovery and ultimately return to play, which is when you make that big decision to put the athlete back on the field? So these are some of the areas which are central and pivotal to our collaboration with BHub as part of a larger ecosystem of amazing companies at BHub.
Yeah. It's fascinating that you talk about essentially what we would call in the telco world network optimization, using the data to drive intelligence, to drive the decisions that you make, and then ultimately improving the overall system. And it's fascinating. You're doing it in a context of humans. We're doing it in a context of networks, but the fundamental concepts are the same.
Indeed.
Albert, cutting edge innovation is where it's all at. We're in a world where it's getting faster. There's more disruption. There's more trends. There's new technologies coming through faster and faster. What other kind of innovations are you working on at Barça Innovation Hub beyond Omniscope?
Well, Bijay said it perfectly, right? So from health to wellness and then performance, right? And we focus most probably on the two ones, so wellness and performance, especially on the sports side. We work on both sides, pure in the business side, more on the, I would say, how we're able to 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 bring better experiences to our fans on a broader sense, but also in particular on the sports side, we're moving on wellness and performance, right? And that comes always to the same kind of definition, how we're able to personalize prevention and training, and how we're able to prevent, right? So prevention and personalization, right? Both in training and then in recovery and treatments, right? And that accounts for at the end of the day, what we try to bring here is how we are going to be able to also bring accountability of our decisions, right? Because at the end of the day, basically we are making a lot of decisions that we know that there is bibliography, that you know that in a particular case that worked for that particular athlete. But with the case of Omniscope, we're able to go into the cell, how this particular athlete is reacting to a diet based on curcuma, for example, right? I mean, we know that curcuma is in an anti-inflammatory nutrition
Yeah.
prescription, but we have never been able to see the exact implications at the biological, at the cellular level, right? So with Omniscope, we're able to do
Yeah.
so that's one point. So beyond that, on the sports side, we are trying to build different sources of data that is able to create this sort of a digital twin of our athlete, so we are able to again personalize, right? So understand each player as a unique player, prevent better, so understanding that if that particular player has this particular context, that particular environment, how we are able to train it, and give him or her recommendation how they can train in a particular way, or have a particular lifestyle that can help her or him to prevent certain injuries.
Yeah.
And that accounts for everything related to human biology and human psychology, right? So basically is and human so brains and bodies, right, at the end of the day. So that brings we're experimenting with, for example, with genomics profiles tied to particular risks of injuries. We are also working on regenerative medicine to try to understand if we are able to regenerate faster our tissues in a specific recovery process. We are also working potentially in the future on cognitive training, right? So it's able to we're going to be able to train our brains to get more focus, so our athletes to get more focused on the pitch. So that's kind of the type of things that, so how we see that. So an athlete at the center, and then understanding all sources of data we're able to gather and use them in a way that we can kind of build this digital twin of our athletes, right? That's where we are at in the future. And I think that with technologies like Omniscope, we're going to be able to get there sooner than expected. Is simulations, right? So starting to say, look, next season we're going to have 62 matches. By the way, this calendar is structured this way. We're going to play against Real Madrid on October 15th. We're going to play quarterfinals of Champions Leagues in that particular time during the year. How our athletes, so how this athlete could react based on the historical data we're able to build, and how we are able to understand, to simulate the whole season at the biological level and at the psychological level, and then have bring the best prevention, and the best performance optimization protocols to help those athletes perform at their maximum level when it's required, right, on that particular match that's going to be in that particular time frame during the season, right? So that's on the performance side. Then on the business, on the experience side, we are always trying to expand the three traditional ways sports has been monetizing those experiences, basically the TV rights, the sponsorships, and the match day kind of ticketing. And here I would think that there is huge opportunities as well to learn from other industries, because at the end of the day here it is about, we are good at attracting eyeballs, right? We are good at attracting people watching our games. We are good at having emotional connection with fans, right? So and I think that we've been in the last years, or in the last decades, I would say, we've been more a B2B business, right? And the idea is how we're able to connect in a more direct way with our fans, right, rather than just relying on third parties. And this is something that we are also learning a lot from other sectors, and working with companies that have technology, understanding technologies, to help us out, expand the core and value proposition for our fans.
Yeah, I like that personalization, not just for the players on the pitch, but also for the fans as well. So you've kind of got the best of both worlds. But kind of just to take your point, I'm already sold on it. I'd love to kind of try this out and see how this will work. I'm a big Manchester United fan. I would love, VJ, if you could do anything to help us sort out the injury problem at Manchester United. That would be amazing. But that's a story for another day. Question for you, VJ. How does this immune data technology actually work? How does it translate into tangible benefits? We heard from Albert, mentioning almost the season can be planned out to effectively optimize, player performance and team performance and those sorts of things. But maybe you can break it down a little bit how companies like Omniscope can help in that focus.
Sure. And Faisal, for you and anybody who wants to, we believe in the democratization of technology. So if you go to our website, you can actually sign up for early access. I'd love for you to get your immune system read, so go for it. Yeah, and anybody listening, go for it.
Good.
Let me tell you a bit about the tech. So I'm actually sitting here in our lab. You can see some of our lab techs back over there. We're actually processing some samples from clinical cohorts. So I echo a lot of the points which Albert mentioned. In order for you to build a model, you have to read data. So what's happening right here in this lab in Barcelona is we're taking blood samples and other types of samples like tumor and others, where we read the immune system. So we see what your immune system is seeing. What are those cells attacking? What are they fighting? How many are they? How are they behaving? And this allows us to generate huge amounts of biological data. You had mentioned the scale of terabytes in what's happening in stadiums. We generate petabytes of data from samples. We have a huge amount of data generation. So first we read the biology so that we can actually create a model. We analyze that model using interpretive AI. All that means is when you look at a complex system, use AI to try and understand the interpretation of what that biology means to a human. You're creating an interface between the wet world of biology and the world of software, which now is increasingly possible. Then what you want to do is the pragmatic and the stuff which makes a difference to the way a club or a patient is actually being run. We call that matching. So if I see a gap in your immune system, you might simply need a bit of a rest. You might be overly inflamed. You might need a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Or I might match your immune system to the need for a vaccine. Think about all of the times, including the World Cup coming now, where we're going to send athletes to Mexico and Canada and the United States. Are their immune systems ready to face these new environments and challenges? That's what we're seeing cell by cell. I think the most exciting things that we're doing, both for the patient and for the athlete, is starting to write immune cells. Because the cost of editing cells has gone down with huge achievements like Nobel Prize for CRISPR by Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier, it has become increasingly cheaper and more precise to engineer cells to do the stuff that you need them to do, to repair that knee cartilage or to make sure that we defend that player from an excessively inflamed environment. And indeed, the phase of writing regenerative therapies so that athletes can play the beautiful game for longer, is not in the future. It's already happening now. Right now in our lab, we're already engineering cells so that as technology develops better and better and better, we can actually bring this to athletes. And again, we can optimize their performance, because that's the beauty of sport. We don't want the greats to go away. We want them to stay.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I think that's one of the things that I kind of I like about this is the personalization, the ability to really kind of come up with specific fixes for where there's a gap, where there's an issue. Now, kind of, I'm just conscious of time because I could probably be talking about this. I say this every time. We're talking about this topic for hours. AI is a topic that's literally everywhere at the moment. We in MWC Barcelona, I think the exception was if there was a stand that didn't have AI on it, that would be the one that would stand out, if that makes sense. How do you see AI? You touched on it, VJ, but I'm going to come to Albert first. How do you see AI, influencing the Barcelona Innovation Hub? AI, emerging technologies like VR as well. How is it influencing the way that you guys work and the companies that you work with?
No, definitely, it's around in several verticals, I would say. I can tell you that we started working with AI since back in 2017. That was one of our first projects, basically on the tactical analysis area, right? Where we understood. I remember one of the first project we hired an industrial PhD from a technical university here to start working, understanding how we can automatize certain patterns, so to the detection of certain patterns within a match, right? Traditionally, coaches or analysts, match analysts, what they do is they get a request from the coach for a specific situation of the game, and they were basically tagging videos and then building a report. But tagging videos of matches means that you have to watch all the match, 90 minutes per X number of matches, right? So that takes a lot of time. And then the experience-based report were always not as good as expected because they were just watching videos and tagging, right? So we understood that there was an opportunity here. Again, that was 2017. No hype on AI, right? So, but we're starting to work with NVIDIA GPUs and all that, trying to build a combination of computer vision solutions. But back at the time, certain providers starting to bring tracking data sets, basically 25 times per second, the position of the players of the ball. And based on that raw data, we started to build models that resonates with the tactical concepts that coaches were actually using to request specific situations of the game to our analysts. So that at the end of the day, we ended up building an internal software to basically tag those situations automatically, right? So that those analysts, match analysts, basically, since they were spending a lot of time just watching videos, now with that solution that we have, basically they just one click, they have that particular pattern tagged in all the matches that they want, right? That's challenging in terms. So again, when we talk about AI, and that's something that Vijay and myself have already discussed a lot. In everyone is talking about AI, but the key concept of AI is the unique data sets that you have to train those models. I mean, AI it's becoming a commodity. The question is how we're able to train those models, in a way that you have uniqueness on the reasoning that you're able to get from there, right? So and that's kind of the key aspect that I think that creates value, right? But in a way, in sports, right? This back at that time, the problem that we had is that kind of the raw data was still expensive, right? Because they were still a manual contribution to those 25 times per seconds of the player of the game, because basically you have occlusions and you lost the IDs of the game of the players, and then you have to have someone saying that particular player is that particular player in that same in the consequence frames, right? Now this is becoming more automatized, and so I think that we are getting in a position where a lot of work that has been developed in the past, we're going to be able to start basically activating it, not only for match analysis but probably for scouting purposes as well, right? But this again, you requires a lot of cameras in a lot of kind of second, third division matches, and that's also terabytes of video that has to be aggregated in a particular cloud, and then you have to post process with those models. So still there, so it will take time, but in that particular case on tactic analysis, we're working on that. So that's one aspect, right?
Yeah.
When we talk, and this is more of a collective component of it, so the coordination, the tactical coordination of the players, right? When we go to think of a human beings, human bodies, athletes, we rely with our partners that are much better than us, right? So understanding how AI could be deployed in understanding immune system of our athletes, right? How AI could be deployed to understand better the correlation between injuries and potential snippets that we had in specific genetic profiles. How AI can help us also modeling this volume of different biomarkers that we're able to extract to actually understand, again, coming back to the same that we were discussing in the previous question, how we're able to understand better our athletes, to prevent better, personalize better, and then simulate to actually come back to prevention, right?
Yeah, yeah. And Vijay, I just want to come to you. Your insights around AI.
Look, I echo everything Albert said. I've been following AI for a long time, longer than I want to admit. And at Omniscope, we have two basic parts of the company. One is the biology part, which is the lab where I am now. And then the rest of the team is mathematicians, computer scientists, software engineers, and computation biologists. So we've been looking at this well before it was hyped up. We've got to remember two things about AI. One, AI is only as good as the data you put inside a model. So as Albert said, the models may become commoditized, but the fundamental data that you put inside to train it is essential. So for us, when we're reading athletes, we're reading such a huge amount of their cells that we can represent their biology. It's also very important to have diversity in your data set. So for example, one of our proprietary models is models of women in sports, because your model has to understand the various idiosyncrasies which are different in women. You have a different physiology, you have a different endocrinology or hormonal profile, and that leads to different types of problems, challenges, and opportunities. So we have specific models, for example, looking at women in sport. And we've also built the largest database in the world of the immune system, which we've done across the world with different ethnicities and ages. Bear in mind that your immune system and your athletic performance is not the same as all ages. You got somebody like Floyd Mayweather fighting in his 50s and George Foreman, and you also have athletes who peak at a very young age. Why does that happen? You have to understand and build data across different parameters, and to ensure that diversity represents the human species. And in sport, you have a lot of different type of sports and a lot of different athletes, which means you have to build these type of models. So the first one is, it's only good as what you put inside. The second bit is a crucial bit. We use AI as a force for good. I don't say that lightly. How are we as humanity going to use AI? We chose to do that in sports because you can see how much goodness there is in sports. It brings humanity together. It doesn't divide humanity. And why am I saying this? Well, because when you look at the way we're structuring AI, what we're doing with Barça today is for elite athletes. But AI allows you to do things cheaper and faster. So we're going to democratize what we're doing for Barça so that we can do it for the fans. And now the fans can get, and recreational athletes and aspiring athletes can get the same technology as their heroes at Barça, because
Yeah.
AI has made it a more accessible product. So that's what I think about AI in a short, reductive format.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to hear some parallels. I wanted to come to both of you across those AI points because it's just the difference in perspectives, in the sense that Albert, you kind of covered it. We look at it the same way, same point of view. When we're in GSMA Foundry, we've got partnerships around AI. We partnered with IBM around the point of democratizing AI. It's great if you've got $1 billion, you can go out there, you can go work with an AI company, absolutely fine. But we saw a big gap around, not everybody's got $1 billion out there to invest. So we've made AI accessible. We've got the Gen AI accelerator pack that we've got with IBM, and shameless plug, it's open, it's available, and it's free for our members to come and use. And the whole goal is literally to try and make AI accessible. Similarly, we're working with the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. Again, Albert, you mentioned, working with companies like NVIDIA, the latest technology, how do you stay on top of it? Working with these partners to kind of build an ecosystem is so important in driving technology, keeping up with the pace of innovation. Because like I say, there are going to be others that are more well placed to bring that innovation, to bring that expertise in-house. And that's why we've put strategic partnerships really at the center of the work that we do. And learning from Barcelona Innovation Hub, companies adjacent outside of our sector is really how we're going to share some of these learnings and drive some of this stuff. And then Vijay, coming to your point, data. It doesn't matter whether it's in mobile networks or, we've just had a project around LLMs in Kazakhstan where they've generated a massive data set around the Kazakh language. Data is absolutely key in driving the intelligence that drives the AI. So, so many fascinating parallels that are coming through in this. I'm heading towards wrapping up because we've only got a few more minutes. Just very quickly, how do you see kind of like the world of tech, sports evolving in the next 5-10 years? How do you kind of see that? And just before you answer, questions in the chat, do you get your questions in the chat, and we'll come around to those as we go through. Albert, you want to get it kicked off?
Yeah. So maybe let me focus first on the experience side, right? So we're seeing new stadiums being built with cutting edge technologies. Our new stadium is going to be in next year. We're going to be there playing, and it's going to be amazing how the experience we're going to be able to bring to the fans, right? So that's one component. So the enhanced experience in our stadiums, with, of course, that requires a lot of good networks from the telcos guys, so that we get experiences and data fast to get those enhanced and augmented experiences. And we're going to see more than that, of course, in the next 5 to 10 years. That's definitely, it's going to be growing, I think. The second screen concept, I think that also going to be or I'd say that the augmented broadcasts with the specific technologies that are able to engage with fans with much more. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how we're seeing already, right, with some broadcasters bringing more information with a new layer of interesting, of course, not graphics, but even, I would say, augmented reality components that we are able to understand better the game, so enjoy better the game, right? So that's another point, right? And when it comes to the athletes, I think that's gonna be amazing, right? Because again, it's I mean, sports has been a little bit closed in that particular aspect. So because at the end of the day, is passion and passion. Sometimes you forget about some sort of other opportunities to bring a specific expertise that we can bring to the sports world and how we treat athletes, right? So I think that a lot of things that has been developing in the last years in the health space, we're gonna be able to translate them to the world of sports, the world of athletes, and then I mean, you can unlock a lot of value for them because again, we're gonna be able to learn. Someday these guys are tracked, and we have a tracked in terms of that we are able to treat them in a almost almost 24 hours if they allow us. But yeah, so that brings us an opportunity for them to treat them so they can enlarge their careers, they can perform better, and they can be much more aware of their potential risk that they are facing, basically because we are able to bring some these technologies to help them grow as a professional, grow in their professional careers. Oh, Faisal, you're muted.
There's hope for me becoming a professional footballer yet, so I'll keep those fingers
Maybe
crossed.
you are not.
That's cool. That's
I'm
cool.
already doing my. I am already tracking my immune age, and I think that it's an amazing experience. You get really actionable insights to say, okay, let's keep it doing.
All right. I think this calls for a special edition of the Innovation Spotlight, where we come and visit VJ and we go through the experience and see what we can do, because it would be fascinating.
Totally.
Links in the chat, questions, or put your guess my immune age in the chat in advance, and then we can kind of see what we can put there. We're getting some questions coming through, and I'm super conscious of time, so we've only got literally a couple of minutes. Gustavo Severa, really interesting to hear about immunological approach in elite sports. I was wondering how you see the transition of this technology into everyday workflows of high performance teams, especially when things need to move fast. Albert, is that okay for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, today we are the beautiful of the Omniscope technology is that these guys are reducing cost of a particular information that is crucial, right? And some years ago that was pretty expensive, but right now it's becoming available, and that's amazing. I mean, at the end of the day, we are taking blood tests of our athletes on a regular basis, right? So we just doing the same. We don't asking for additional kind of data extracting, right? So I think it's gonna be, we don't have to change workflows, but it's a matter of understanding when there is an injury. We can go at the cell level and understand what's going on there, and if we're applying a specific treatment, we understand what's going on there, right? And probably that particular treatment will not affect the same way a particular athlete than the other one, right? So right now we are doing most of one size fits all, right? Because we have bibliography and we have statistics saying that if you have a hamstring injury with with a strip in your hamstring that with that particular length, you need 4 weeks of rest, whatever, right? Because the experience-based sports medicine bibliography says that, right? But we're going to be able to go at the cell level. We're going to be able to understand if there is a particular inflammation in that particular muscle, and we're going to understand, okay, maybe that particular player needs to rest a little bit more, or maybe it's the specific supplement to help that inflammation to be reduced, right? So that's a little bit on how we see it. So I think it's going to be a technology. I mean, when I started in that industry, back at that time, what's called external load, which basically managing, understanding the mechanical stress you put your body, was starting to be a culture. Was not there as a standard. Now it is. Definitely everyone uses a GPS. Everyone tracks players to understand how much stress we put these bodies during the match and during the training sessions. So everyone is using it. But back at the time, 10 years ago, I mean, that was some clubs, but not all of them, right?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of understanding this will come. It's understanding how this mechanical stress, how we physiological, how you from a physiological perspective react to that mechanical stress. And 10 kilometers for one player is not it's not the same for another player, right? For one player can be 10 kilometers huge stress, but for the other one could be easy one.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating because I've got this Whoop band, and it's a similar sort of thing. Understanding the stress that comes onto your body, and then understanding how it impacts your recovery, your sleep, all of these sorts of things. Now, I think VJ, you just got one of the world's best kind of like customer testimonials, because you did. I was going to ask you that question, but Albert's already answered it for you. So we're gonna skip to the next one. We've got a little bit of a tradition in Foundry on these innovation spotlights. We like to have a question from the previous guest to the next guest. From the question, it was Shirin from Azazel who was talking to us about her experience around using the IBM accelerator platform. Stephen Hawking, was in. She mentioned 11 years ago. She read an article. It was around Stephen Hawking. What takeaway from from previous leaders or bright minds in technology can we use today? And how it's kind of influenced you, Vijay. I'll come to you on this one.
Yeah, I'm deeply inspired by somebody who is living and is very, very active. Demis Hassabis won a Nobel Prize for protein folding. Imagine the intellectual audacity to think about understanding the way proteins, which are the building blocks of life, fold and configure with each other. He achieved that. And I think that is fundamentally going to change not just humanity, it might even change parts of the planet. We're making enzymes to devour plastics. We might be making proteins to cure diseases which were previously completely uncurable. And the beauty, I think, and the reason I find it inspiring, and I'm curious to see what our future guests make of it and how to use it, is because there are no limits. Any biological system is deeply, deeply protein-based. Yeah, proteins do most of the useful stuff in our body. And what Hassabis, together with Google and especially with Geoffrey Hinton, achieved is to bring together two disparate fields, the field of computation and the field of biology. And I find that deeply inspiring because one of the things I feel that we're doing with Barça, and particularly with Albert, is we are embodying the idea that science is we all, and we're coming together to try and do good things for absolutely everybody, regardless of their provenance. So that's my 2 cents.
Nice. Albert, coming to you very quickly.
Maybe I'm gonna reference an amazing I would say thought leader, and that I learned from him. It's Nassim Taleb. That I learned from him the beauty of the savviness of the evolution, the biological system evolution, right? And I can link that to what Omniscope is building, basically with using immune system, which is basically an accumulation of knowledge of many years of human life to treat athletes, to treat patients, and to achieve, and at the end of the day, to change how the healthcare system is structured, right? So I will finish with that. I think it resonates a lot with everything.
Yeah, it's how we level up, how we evolve, how we continue to evolve the human species. It's fascinating. Very quickly, what question would you pose to our next guest?
My big question derives a little bit from an aspect of physics, which is chaos and complexity theory. How are we going to take very complex questions and very complex mechanisms and reduce them to something simple enough to take an action?
Nice. Actionable.
And myself, I will ask, since I'm going to honor my past in physics, I'm going to honor that, and I will ask, how do you envision quantum computation having an impact on your day-to-day life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because even in Foundry, we're now looking at quantum computing as a topic. We picked it up in 2025, and it's just absolutely fascinating how it's actually, real world implications. And I think that's what fascinates me about this space. I think what we'll do is we'll try and do a poll for next time to see which question we ask our next guest, because I think both of those are absolute crackers. But with that being said, I think we're well over time, and I just want to say thank you to the audience and thank you to you guys for joining us for this innovation spotlight. We're going to be having another spotlight coming up in next month, where we're going to be hearing more around the leading lights of innovation and where we get to. So thank you very much for joining, and as ever, join us, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join us for our next session. Thanks very much, Albert and Vijay.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.